Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Localhost Lookup. In this video I'm going to show you how to install Active Directory domain services to create a domain controller. I'll just firstly show you some of the materials you'll require to follow along with this video. So I'm currently using the Hypervisor VirtualBox. As you can see, I've already created a virtual machine called DC01. Within this machine I have installed the operating system Windows Server 2022 and have set all the hardware requirements for it. In fact, I already have it running and opened over here. So you'll need to install VirtualBox, and you'll need to get a download of the Windows Server 2022 operating system from the Microsoft website. I'll just show you the links for those. So from this link, I have downloaded the Windows Server ISO, and this link over here is to download the VirtualBox program. Because I'm using a Windows machine, I'm using the Windows option, and on top of this, I have downloaded and installed the VirtualBox extension pack as well. So I'll leave a link to both platforms in the description of this video. Before we start installing Active Directory domain services on our server over here, I think it'd be good just to go through what Active Directory domain services is, in fact. So Active Directory Domain Services, or ADDS for short, is a directory service that uses a structured data store to store information about objects on a network, such as user accounts and computers. The main purpose of setting up ADDS is to centralize your authentication, authorization, and security policies, allowing authorized network users to access specific resources anywhere on the network with a single username and password. So to run ADDS, you'll need to install the role on a Windows Server computer and configure that server as a domain controller. So this is what we'll be demonstrating in this video. And in typical business environments, there tends to be at minimum 2 domain controllers. The logic being, should one fail, then there's the other server to cover the authentication process. So what is a domain controller server? A domain controller server is a server in a Windows Server environment that runs the Active Directory domain services, essentially. And on top of that, it's a server where ADDS has been installed and then has been promoted to become a domain controller. So moving on to the next slide. So what are the requirements for a domain controller server? So obviously the Windows Server operating system must be installed. Best to use some of the recent versions of Windows Server. It's best to have a static IP address set on your chosen server for the domain controller, and naturally Active Directory domain services must be installed. This is what we'll be going through. DNS server, the DNS server role is required. The DNS server role is installed with ADDS by default, especially if it's the first time you're installing it. And DNS is crucial for domain functionality, as Active Directory relies heavily on DNS to locate domain controllers. Because DNS server is installed with ADDS, you'll find that the forward lookup zone is automatically created during the installation, but additional settings within DNS Manager, such as reverse lookup zone and DNS forwarders, this will have to be created manually. So now that we've gone through that, we can now begin installing Active Directory domain services on our server. So Just to double check, it'd be good to see if a static IP has been set. So I'll just right click on the network icon over here, click on Open Network and Internet Settings, go to Change Adapter Options, hit the Ethernet object, go into Properties, IPv4, and I've already set these details from before. So I've set the IP address to be 192.168.2.10, subnet mask, default gateway, and I've set the DNS currently to be Google's DNS server. And once DNS has been installed and set on this server, we can then update this address to reflect the server's own address. So we can come out of this, and just to show you further with the command line, if we type in cmd and do ipconfig /all, so you can see 192.168.2.10, and for DNS servers we've set for Google's DNS server over here. So we'll go ahead and start the installation of the server role. So we'll open up Server Manager over here and head over to Tools, Manage, Add Roles and Features. So this is the first page of the installation, and it mentions here, before you continue, verify that the following tasks have been completed. So administrator has a strong password, which is I've set from before, and network settings such as static IP address are configured. So we've just checked this, so we have this covered, and we can click on next. So our plan is to install ADDS, which is a role-based service, so we can leave the default option selected here and click on next. Select destination server. So we plan to install the service on this server here, which is already selected, so no changes to make here. We can click on next. Now this is the page where we choose the service that we want to install, which is Active Directory Domain Services. And as soon as we've clicked on that, we have an additional pop-up appear to say we're unable to install ADDS unless the following role services or features are also installed. So part of the installation of ADDS will get additional tools such as Active Directory module for Windows PowerShell, Administrative Center, and in the next page we'll see group policy management, which is top of the list. So we'll click on add features over here and then click on next. And as I mentioned a second ago, group policy management has been selected by default, so nothing further to do here. Ensure that this is ticked and click on next. Now this page here is just giving you an overview of Active Directory Domain Services, and if you take a look here, it mentions install a minimum of 2 domain controllers for a domain, and we discussed DNS server beginning of this video, so there's a lot of emphasis on these 2 components. So we'll click next, and this is just giving us a summary of what we're planning to install. So everything here seems to be okay, and we can just click on install. Now this will take a couple of minutes to install, so I'll just pause the video and resume once it's ready. So I'll see you in a second. So the install has now completed, and what we immediately see is the option to promote this server to a domain controller. So we can do that from here, or if for whatever reason this window closes, we can do start the same process by clicking on the this icon over here. So we'll just go ahead and start this process now. Promote this server to a domain controller. So we're going to choose the add a new forest option. Because this is our first domain controller in our environment, this is why a new forest will have to be created. It's not the case. We had a forest from before and we're adding a domain controller to an existing domain or a new domain to an existing forest. So it's our first time creating a domain controller and we need to add a new forest. So the name that I'll be setting for the root domain name will be itlab.local, but you can call yours whatever you prefer. So I've chosen this and I'll click on next. So we're now on the domain controller options page and we have to set the functional level of the new forest and root domain. So essentially this menu here, you specify the bare what you specify here, the oldest server version for any upcoming servers within your environment. So I'll be choosing the default option, Windows Server 2016. Windows Server 2016. And the below options over here, as you can see, domain name system DNS server is already set. So having this ticked and enable will prompt for the installation of the DNS server role. And we have the global catalog field enabled by default. And the read-only domain controller currently grayed out and we're not able to select that, but we won't. But because this is our first domain controller, it needs to be a writable domain controller rather than read-only. So the directory services restore mode, or DSRM password. Now, what this is a safe boot option for domain controllers that allows administrators of the domain to repair or restore the Active Directory's database should anything go wrong and it needs a repair or the database needs restoring. So if you ever fall into that situation, you'll require this password. So it's best to set something strong and memorable for it. So I'll just go ahead and choose a password to go on to the next step. And going on next. Now here in the DNS options page, this option is pretty much grayed out for us. We don't currently have a DNS server ready at the moment, but at the end of this we should do. So we can just click on next for this page. Within this page we have to set the NetBIOS name. So think of NetBIOS as the shorter name for your root domain name, which we set in the beginning. So I'll just change mine to be ITL rather than IT Lab, and we can just click on next for here. So in the paths page, asks you to specify the location of the AD, DS database, log files, and sysvol. We'll just keep the default settings for here. No changes to make here. Click on next. And now we're in the review options page, so we can see all the options that we have set for all the pages we've seen. So the new domain name will be itlab.local. The NetBIOS name will be ITL, which is a shorter version of this over here. Forest functional level, domain functional level, and we're installing DNS. So it's just a page where you review the options that you have chosen. And we'll click on next to go to the next page. And yeah, so it mentions all prerequisite checks passed successfully, which is good. You'll see a couple of amber warnings. This is normal and nothing to be concerned about. We can go ahead with the installation. So DNS is mentioned over here again. It's because we don't have DNS already installed, but after the installation of ADDS, DNS will be installed alongside with this. So mentions prerequisite checks completed, prerequisite checks passed successfully, and we'll just click on install. Now this will take a few moments to install, so I'll just pause the video and resume once it's ready. The server will reboot, and yeah, the server will reboot and come back online, and I'll resume the video. Hello again. So part of the installation, as I mentioned before, the server had to reboot. So now it's come back online. I'll just log into the server again with my credentials. So, and this is the NetBIOS name that I have set for my domain, ITL, which is now present. So this is what the NetBIOS name will look like when you log in after the domain controller has been installed. So logging in now. Okay, so I'll just show you that the Active Directory Domain Services installation has been successful. So we have Server Manager currently open, and in this area over here, it shows you all the roles that a server currently has installed. And as you can see, Active Directory Domain Services and the DNS service as well. So as we're talking about DNS, let's just open up DNS Manager or DNS here. And yeah, if we expand this, you can see the forward lookup zones have been created and set. So our itlab.local that we could see over here. However, the reverse lookup zones, as you can see, is currently empty. This is something you'll need to set yourself, and it's pretty useful to have, especially when doing commands such as nslookup. So I will be covering this in this video, perhaps in a future video. So this is the DNS Manager, and if you go into your all programs list under Windows Administrative Tools, you can see a couple of Active Directory tools that were installed and which weren't present from before. So you have the AD Admin Center, Domains and Trusts, PowerShell module, Sites and Services, and Active Directory users and computers. So I'll just open this up, and as you can see, top of the tree, the forest is called itlab.local, and these are the internal directories within. And if you go into the domain controllers organizational unit, you will see DC01, which is the server we've been working on. So this pretty much covers the scope of this video. I hope you found it useful, and going forward from here, what your next steps could involve is creating a secondary domain controller and completing the additional steps for DNS. Yeah, so I hope you guys found this video useful. Please drop a like on the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you and see you next time. Bye bye.